me well?
Yes,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
can.
Thank you. Okay. So today's topic is moving from uh, anxiety to acceptance. So a qualification to be part of this workshop is all of you should have felt a little bit of anxiety in your life. If you have not felt anxiety in your life, then you don't need to be here. You should actually come and share with me, with other people. So, so everybody here has felt any kind of anxiety in your life ever? Great. So all of you in some ways or other, you can relate to the anxiety. And the thing is, anxiety. So I just want to, the reason I'm sharing this with you, all of you, is I don't want you to feel that if you feel anxious, that there is something seriously wrong with you. So anxiety is part of our life. But the most important thing is how do we handle this anxiety? Because we all feel anxiety in different ways. Say when we were young, we were a little anxious. Like if we have siblings, that if our if our parents are going to love us more, or they will love our siblings more, whether they would accept us if we have done any mistakes or not. All of those different situations, circumstances actually create different anxiety. When you grew up, you were in the school, when you were getting ready for the exam, you were not sure that whether I'm prepared enough for this exam. You felt the anxiety, right? So, or when the results were due for your from your exams, or the grades were due, then also you felt anxiety. And when you grew up, you had your first crush, you felt the butterflies in your stomach. That was also anxiety. But at that point of time, you felt, oh, I am in love with somebody, or I'm really attracted to this person. So all of those feelings inside in different ways, when you felt the butterflies, when you felt the worry, when you felt that something is going to go wrong, all of these things in different ways induce an anxiety in us. So whether things go wrong or not, or whatever your worst case scenario comes to truth or not, uh, even the perceived uh, idea that something was going to go wrong creates anxiety, right? So we are in this election time. Till yesterday or till this morning before the results were announced, a lot of people were in some kind of anxiety, right? And that what's going to happen. Even now, after everything is kind of declared, there is still a sense of anxiety what's going to happen next, because some of the things are still not clear. So anxiety actually gets induced in our life in different ways through different channels, and all of us carry uh, a little bit of anxiety. So if we have not like cleared anxiety from our system, it builds up over a period of time. So if something happens to you which was traumatic in nature, uh, right from a small thing like somebody rejected you for whatever reason, whether in a relationship, whether in a professional circumstance, or somebody said something to you, you were hurt, and you never process that energy. So anxiety is like the energy is flowing normally in your life, and then something happens and it creates a block in the flow of that energy, right? So if you see in that way, that block, if it's not resolved, if it's not resolved, then it creates anxiety. That block would stay there forever. Then something else happens, it adds to that block. Then something else happens, it adds to that block. So if you do not process, do not release that energy, that anxiety continues to sit with you and travel with you. So how do we know we are carrying a particular level of anxiety with us? If you think of a time when it was really painful, really hurtful, or somebody has hurt you, uh, as soon as you think about that person, if you feel the hurt, if you feel the pain, if you feel all those same feelings which you felt at that point of time, it shows that some of that anxiety, some of that hurt, some of that fear is still carrying on with you. And as we human beings continue to go forward, if we do not resolve it, do not release it, then it stays with us. So, so to understand, anxiety happens as we go along in life. But the more important thing is, how do we deal with it as we go along? If we have right tools, then it's easy. Then we would be open. We would live our life uh, from that place of openness, take the risk, take the challenge, and uh, and be okay with, like, hey, if things doesn't go as per the plan, I would still work it out. And every one of us here who is here, is there anybody in your life? Is there anybody here whose life has exactly turned out the way you have planned? Means like every single plan of your life has worked out the way you have really planned in your life. Is there anybody here who has done whose life has worked out that way? No,
No.
right? So so like, for example, you wanted to take admission in a particular course, in a particular school, in a particular degree. It didn't work out. But did it stop you from moving forward? No, you got upset, you got hurt, but then you say, okay, fine. If not this, let me try to different school. Let me go to a different place. Or if I didn't find a job here, let me go to a different job, or you got laid off in a particular job, you look for a different job. So every one of you in some way or other figured out a plan B, right? So all of us worked out a plan B and moved forward with our lives, which means that despite those setbacks, we have the capacity to figure out a plan B, right? Or a plan C, whatever it is. So it is inherent in us to figure out those plan B and plan C and still be flexible and move forward. Because if we would have not done so, what would have been the situation? If you say, if I would have failed in my bachelor's exam and I haven't figured out a plan B, I would still be sitting there without a bachelor's degree, right? Because I would be so upset, so stressed, so whatever it is, right? So anxious that I cannot try next, which means I didn't give up. I tried something else and I moved forward. And all of these things are the key, which helps us understand that even though, despite those setbacks, despite all those challenges, despite whatever I felt, the hurt, the setback, the anxiety, I still figured out plan B. Yeah, even though we all may look back in our lives and say, like, oh, I wish that would have happened. I wish I would have taken a different decision. I wish I would have studied more. All of those things are okay, but everything makes more sense. You have a clear perspective when you look back in your life, right? You try to connect the dots. So hindsight is always 2020. So that is okay, but all of those things helps us learn, understand, so that we do not repeat those mistakes. So so the reason why I'm sharing with all of you is the reason I'm sharing with all of you all of this is to help you understand that all of you have the capacity to deal with anxiety. You may not have the capacity to avoid anxiety because sometimes it gets induced from outside circumstances without your choice. If all of us were given a choice to live a life without anxiety, we would have also, like, absolutely. I would have wished my life, this first course I would have taken, the first admission in my school would have worked out exactly. The first person I liked, I should have been married to that person. The first job I would have wanted, I would have been there. Or even this election should have been declared the very first night, whatever was the result. But that's not how life works. So life would give you challenges. Life would give you those kind of new experiences by changing your plan is, so that you can learn how to be more flexible, how to take on the challenge, how to grow. So first of all, understanding that anxiety, all of us experience. Second, we all have capacity to deal with anxiety. Whether our methods are right or not, that's a different story. But we all have the capacity to deal with it. The reason we are here is I want to share with you some perspective, some of the things which I have practiced in my life, which has helped me deal with anxiety. Plus, uh, I have worked with a lot of other people and how I have coached them, guided them. But I also share some exercises with you. I don't want it to be very theoretical kind of a session where I give you some perspective and then you take it as notes, because anxiety is not here. It can be induced through your mind. You think about something and something can create anxiety. But anxiety is a very real experience which sits inside your system, right? All the happy experiences which you have experienced in your life, all the joy, all the happiness, all the compassion, all the pleasures, a memory of that sits inside your physical body, inside your nervous system. So do all the hurtful experiences, all the painful experiences, all the challenging experiences, the impact of those also sits with you if you haven't healed them. So you are a big cruise ship which is carrying all those experiences with you in this lifetime. So given anxiety, avoiding anxiety is not in our hand. So what is in our hand is to really see the things the way they are and also see it in the right perspective. So one of the biggest cause of anxiety is we fear about a future where something would go wrong. That's the number one thing. And we are great imagineers, like we engineer our own future experiences where we can say that, hey, this can go wrong, that can go wrong. Worst case scenarios, what is the worst which can happen? And whether it has happened or not, the mind doesn't differentiate between reality and imagination. Mind responds to whatever you are thinking. If you're thinking positive thoughts, mind would respond with positivity. And because mind gives the cue to your body, your emotions, it would release the positive emotions. If you think negative, then the body would respond, your nervous system would respond and create negative emotions. So imagine if you continue to think negatively, what's going to happen? You are continuing to experience negative emotions, and negative emotions trigger similar chemicals in your body. And when those similar chemicals are released in your body, that continue to shape the physicality of you, which means those chemicals are working inside and impacting something or other. For example, if you have issues with anger, you get angry with every things which happen. Whether you suppress the anger, whether you explode with anger, it has a direct impact on your liver. So if you do not handle that problem over a long period of time, your liver would start showing the signs. So even before that, the signs are there, but you are ignoring it. But the last frontier is your body. Your body would start showing signs. Similarly, if you carry a lot of fear, your kidneys would start showing the signs. So your body is your last frontier to give the signal that, hey, something is wrong. So that's why when you're stressed, when you're anxious, and you go to a doctor and you talk to a doctor would prescribe you take this medicine, take this, but they also say, hey, you need to make lifestyle changes because the way you are living your life is not working. The style in which you are living your life is not working. That's why you have to make lifestyle changes. So whether you do yoga, you do meditation, you eat healthy, all of those should lead to lifestyle changes, so that you would move more into the positivity. So if you really understand, like we all have a habit of obsessing over worst case scenarios, what can go wrong, this can go wrong, that can go wrong. And this continuously puts us onto a treadmill of thinking negatively all the time. And that keeps on adding to the anxiety. So anxiety, those people who have anxiety, half of those people who have anxiety also have depression. They have a clear connection between both of them. I would come to this a little bit later, but coming to anxiety, as per research, and this is not me saying, as per research, 95% of all your negative thoughts or worst case scenarios never come true. And you would have witnessed it in your own life. So all the negative thinking which we are doing, what can go wrong in our life, 95% of those scenarios never come true. And the rest 5%, even if they come true, we have the capacity to handle it. How do we know we have the capacity to handle it? If we didn't have the capacity to handle it, we won't have been here right now in this moment in this class. Something would have happened to us. We would have gone, right? Which means whether it's painful or not, that's a different story. But we are dealing with it. We are dealing with that challenge. That's why we are here. Or we handle those challenges like we have the plan B, plan C. That's why we are here. So understanding that even though I can obsess about what can go wrong, at the same time, I really need to understand most of those scenarios, majority of them will never come true. And if some of these would come true, I would figure my way out, or I would get the help, whether my trust in God, whether I trust in myself, whether I trust in my relation, my connection, it would work out. Sometimes we may not have all the resources. I may not have all the answers, but every single one of us here, whether we have resources by ourselves or not, we all are resourceful. And what I mean by resourceful is we can reach out to somebody else, right? Like having a Having a good doctor is being resourceful. You can go to a doctor, or having a good friend with whom you can discuss about it is being resourceful. So we can always go and talk to these people, always go look for guidance, which can help us move through. But we are also very hardwired for survival. Our mind is always looking for ways in which it can avoid pain. That's how everything works, So our mind is always looking to go for pleasure and avoid pain. That's how it is always working. So the pain is like, and pain is different for different people, right? So if I give you certain scenarios, you should just mentally check, like, is this pleasure or pain for me? Okay. And each one is different. You don't have to speak out. So like getting up in the morning and going for a workout, pleasure or pain? Going and meeting your in-laws, pleasure or pain? Going to work every morning, pleasure or pain? So just check what is your first response, what your mind is saying. It says pleasure or pain, right? Or going and cooking a meal for your loved one, pleasure or pain? Going for a difficult discussion with your boss, pleasure or pain? Having a challenging discussion with your spouse, pleasure or pain? Or going for the ice cream in the middle of the night, pleasure or pain? So check what is your internal response. Whether it's right or wrong, mind doesn't really care about that. What mind cares about it, what would give you pain. So that's why a lot of times when we try to get up in the morning to go and work out, it is healthier for us. But at that point of time, the pleasure is to continue to be in the bed and enjoy the warmth of the bed, right? Similarly, some people who know like, hey, drinking is bad for health, but they can't handle their uh, they can't handle their stress or whatever it is, so they go for drinking. In long term, it's painful, but in short term, it's pleasure. So mind is wired to avoid pain, which another way means mind is wired for survival. It is looking how to survive, and the way it is looking to survive is by avoiding pain. Because for so many years, right, for so many hundreds of years, we are looking to survive. That's why right now we are living in nice houses. We have much more resources and everything, but at an emotional level, at a mental level, we are still in survival mode. That's why we think so much in a negative way. That's why a lot of our thinking is around what can go wrong. But as you meditate, as you focus on the positivity, you change this behavior. You start loosening that muscle and start building in the positivity of the muscle. So the first thing you have to understand is that if you are here right now in this session, right? If you're here right now in this session, your life is way, way better than a lot of other people out there, right? And all of our lives, most of the things have worked out in our favor rather than against us, if you really see, right? So even one small thing could have derailed our life and would have gone somewhere else. Maybe whether you're happy or not right now fully the way it is, but your life is still way better than others. So like I'm right now in this place, there are a lot more things have worked better for me. And how I know it has worked better for me is because I have actually uh, known less things in which I have control than the things which I don't have control on, and they have still worked out for me, right? So what I mean to say is that I trust that things would work out for me, whether I understand them or not. So our life actually works with trust. So when we are born, we born with a lot of trust. But because of certain experiences, certain challenges, certain failures, we lose that faith and trust in ourselves. And because we lose that faith and trust in ourselves, and then we lose the faith and trust in the relationships with the people around us, because somebody hurt us, somebody took advantage of us, somebody manipulated us, or whatever has happened, we lose that trust. And when we lose that trust, that's when we start worrying what can happen. Because now if we if something has happened, somebody has betrayed us, somebody has broken our trust, it was really painful, really hurtful. And because that was really painful, really hurtful, it created a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, a lot of pain. What I did is decided that next time somebody broke my heart, next time I'm not going to open my heart to anybody else, because when I opened last time, it was really painful and really hurtful. So which means I'm not going to trust anybody else, right? Because if I'm not going to trust anybody else, it's going to save me, going to protect me. And that way I can avoid the anxiety, I can avoid the pain, I can avoid all of those things. But that's not how life works. So you can close your heart, but then you can go through your life and you would miss out on the connections. You would miss out on genuine love. You would miss out on really knowing other person or really sharing who you are with other person. So when this actually happens, then you're not really living your life fully. But life actually works with most of the trust. Like every single time when you take out your car and drive, there is a very good possibility that there could be accident, right? Right, every single time when you go out. Similarly, when a pilot was flying a plane, every single time he goes out and flies, there's a very good possibility that it can crash, right? But you still continue to go with your life doing all the things because you trust, right? So like if you are driving on a single lane road and the divider in between is just a yellow line, nothing else, just a yellow line. Then there's a car coming from other direction and you're driving in the opposite direction. What allows you to continue driving without being afraid? First, you practice on your own self, right? Like I am a good driver. But what's the other part? How do you continue to drive without fear?
Trust on other side.
Exactly, because you trust that other guy is going to be in his lane. He's not going to run into my lane. And even in a fraction of a second, that guy can, because of lack of attention, whatever it is, he can run into you. But if that was the fear, you would have never taken your car out and driven. You would be sitting in your home and be so obsessed with what can go wrong that your life would have come to a standstill. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because there are more things in this life which are working for us than they're working against us. And that's the key message we have to understand, that there are more things which are working for us in this life than against us, whether we know or not. For example, do you really calculate how many times your heart should beat when you're going to sleep in the night? You go with the trust, right? Like my heart is going to do his job, my liver is going to do this job, or I'm going to breathe X amount of times in a single minute. Imagine if you have to take care of all of these things. Imagine if you have to control how many times your heart should beat every minute in the night when you're going to sleep, or how many breaths you have to take. You trust it works. Like when you're running, you start breathing faster because your body needs more oxygen. So your system naturally starts accommodating for the new scenario, which is like you are running and you need more oxygen. Do you have to plan for it? Do you have to think about it? No, you don't have to, because that's how life is actually created to support you. So you have to actually lean into this belief that life is here to work for me. It's working for me, right? So I should move more from trust. The more you are moving from trust would help you change your thought process about what can go wrong, the thinking, the thought process, the worries, because there are always a lot more things which can go wrong than you can think of, right? But there are a lot more things which are working for you than they can go wrong. So just having this trust, first of all, that life is working for me. And a lot of times when we have gone through this life and a lot of challenges have happened with us, like somebody has betrayed us, somebody has broken our heart, somebody has really created challenges for us, then we start losing this ability to trust in life. And in that situation, the most important thing is you would actually come up with like, this person did this to me, this person did this to me, my mother didn't love me, or my father didn't love me, or my neighbor did this to me. So you have a long list of things what people did to you to create challenge, create that uh, that that hurt or anxiety in you. So if you look into that in that perspective, these people did this to me, then it would become much more difficult for you to live from a place of trust. But understand one thing, that as we are moving in our life has placed every single individual, every single situation to help us grow. Because if you look back all the situations which were really challenging, where you thought, oh, you would never get over with it, you might die. But you look back at the same situation, you realize, oh, if those things won't have happened, I would have actually not grown. I won't have learned these lessons. I won't have learned these skills, right? So you figured out all of those things and you continue to move forward. So instead of looking in these people, this did this to me, did this to me, the best way to handle that is you make a list of all the things where you say this person did this to me, whether they hurt you, they upset you, they created challenges in your life, or this, or maybe you have some people right now, you can think of, all everybody can think of one person in their life. As soon as you think about it, like, oh God, that person is so difficult. Like you go to a party and among all the guests, everybody really loves you, connects with you, but one person really says hello to you. So who stays in your mind? That one person who doesn't connect with you or who didn't say hello to you with a smiling face. And you get obsessed by thinking about why, oh, this person hates me or whatever it is. Because our mind over a period of time has become so tuned to thinking negative, focusing on the negativity, it pulls all the other things which are working for us. So in order to handle what all things which happened, which you haven't been able to deal with, the past hurts, past pains, you make a list of all the things, like this person did this to me, this person, create this list, the whole list. And once you're done with that list, the next step, see, like if I was doing a longer workshop, we would have done this exercise in real time. But I'm giving you as your own homework, you can do it so that it can help you. So you make that list, these people did this to me. And then when you're done with that list, the way to learn what is the lesson in this for me is start changing that language. Instead of this person did this to me, my neighbor hurt me or my mother hurt me. And you have to ask this question, what was the lesson? What was the learning in this for me? So when you ask this question, what was the lesson which I learned from that? Whether I developed more patience, whether I developed more resilience, whether I developed more tolerance, whatever it is, these are the lessons which I learned through that relationship, through that whole connection. So now you change that list. Instead of saying this person did this to me, you say this person did this for me. So instead of they did this to me, they did this for me so that I can learn, fill in the blanks. I can learn more patience. I can learn this. I can learn that. Because if that person wasn't there, even though it was hurtful, it was painful, if that person won't have there, they won't have pushed me to develop that. Like some of you have learned how to stand up for yourself because somebody was really challenging you all the times. So if you look in a bigger picture, if those people were not placed in your life, you won't have learned those important life lessons, right? And if you won't have learned those important life lessons, you would still be one skill less, one talent less, or one quality less, or one virtue less. So they were placed in your life to help you grow. Which means what? If those people were placed into your life to build those qualities, build those virtues, build those powers in you, what does it really mean? Anybody would like to say, what do you think? What does it really mean? You can unmute and you can answer if you want to.
What does it mean?
What does it mean in your life in a bigger picture?
There's a purpose.
Yeah, there is a purpose. And what is that purpose?
Sometimes it's that I would have compassion for the next person who suffers the same way.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is absolutely true. But if you go a step further, what it means is actually life is built to help you grow. It's working for you. Even though you would have loved that, oh, I would have loved compassion in a very loving manner. I would have loved tolerance in a very loving manner. But that's not how you learn tolerance. You learn tolerance by being pushed, by being stretched out of your comfort zone. So even though it happened in a very challenging way, very hurtful way, you understand the deeper lesson that whether I understand it or not, life is still working for me. So I can trust life. That's the underlying lesson. If you can trust life, and trusting life here means several different things. I can trust myself, I can trust God, I can trust universe, I can trust fill in the blanks, whatever it is. But ultimate thing is life is working for me and I can trust life even when I don't understand how it is working. So when I get confused, when there is no clear answer, when there is no clarity on what next decision or how should I make that decision, I am okay with that challenge, because there would be a lot of times in our life when we don't have clarity in our life, when we are making decisions. The difficult decisions are when there is not very clear black and white, right? Because when it's black and white, it's very clear. Oh, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I have to do that. I don't have to vote for this person. I have to do that. It's very clear. But the real thing is, the challenge is when when the pros and cons are not very clear, when you don't know all the variables of the equation, when there are more unknowns, then those decisions become very unclear. Should I leave this job, search for a new job, or should I leave this job and go for my passion, go for my business? What would happen if the business fails or whatever? So all of those things are different variables which are unknown. And there would always be times, there would always be a couple of things in your life in the future. The idea is not to seek clarity. The idea is not to seek clarity, because if you try to seek clarity, what you're trying to do is you're trying to control more things so that you can get the result which you really want. The idea is not to seek clarity to control the circumstances or control the end result. The idea is to develop the resilience and strength so that you can handle unclarity. Because if you have the strength, the virtues, the qualities to handle unclarity, then you can navigate your way out of all of those things. The truth is you would always have some unclarity or other which would always be there. So life path won't be like always rosy. But as long as you have the strength, you're like, I'm confused, it doesn't really matter. Like, for example, when I'm confused, I say like, it's okay to be confused, but that also means in the future, I would have the clarity. I would navigate through this confusion, something would work. And the way something can work is I need to take action. Whatever I know is the next positive step for me. Whatever is the right step for me, I would go and take that action. And once I take that action, the life would give a feedback and say like, go do this, go do that, right? You would get the feedback based on your action, not just on your thinking. Because if you're thinking, you'd sit there and think all throughout the day and nothing would happen. And what is going to happen? You're going to get more worried, more concerned, because you're trying to look for all the variables which you can control. So what you're going to do is you're going to get stuck into survival mentality. That's what mind is. Mind is wired for survival. And the reason it is wired for survival is because it is very scared to the unknown things. It wants to know every single thing which has to pan out, right? It wants to know from right now to the end of your life, what decisions you're going to make, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, so that you feel safe. That's what it's trying to do. Your mind wants to do that. And in the households you are grown up, when your parents says, oh, I want you to choose this course, I want you to choose this partner, I want you to choose because I want to see you happy. And in some ways their intentions was good, but most of the time when they said, I want to see you happy, what they really wanted to do was they wanted to see you safe. Because if you're not safe, that would create unsafety for them also. So understand that mind is always seeking for safety by knowing all the variables. And if it doesn't know all the variables, it creates anxiety. It creates worry, And the idea is the more you're trying to seek clarity, trying to figure out all the unknowns, the more it is going to create anxiety in your life. So stepping back, you have to trust that life is working for me. And most of the times when you have passed through those difficult situations and you look back, you can connect all the dots. Oh, this happened and that happened, right? And that's what was happening. And all of these led me to this place so that I can learn this lesson. I can figure this out, right? All the people rejected you, and then it was really painful for you, but you ended up with the right relation, professionally, personally, with God, whatever it is. And then you say, thank God, all those people who rejected me. Because if they won't have rejected me, I won't have been here, right? But at that point of time, it was painful. And at that point of time, it was very confusing. So when you're going through all the difficult times, it's not easy for you to connect the dots. You would always be able to connect the dots when you look back. So trust, when I look back, when I connect the dots, it would work out. I would be at a happier place, better place. I would have learned better. Not necessarily I wouldn't have gone through the pain. I wouldn't have avoided the pain. I would have still experienced the pain, but I would end up being at a better place. So the underlying thing is trust that your life's journey is taking you to a higher path to help you grow. That's the number one thing. That's the premise on which you build your life. So all the paths you take, whether religious, spiritual, if it is not helping you build more trust in life, more trust in yourself, more trust in God, then you need to really question, am I following it right? Which means, is that formula which has been given to me is correct or not? Or my application is correct or not? Because if you're not getting the results which you really want, it is not enhancing your trust in your life, in God, in world, in relations, then somewhere that formula is not applied correctly or the formula is incorrect. So you check, how do I fine tune that? So as you do that, you would start seeing bigger picture that how all these dots are connected, how life is still working for me, bringing those people who either need to push me to grow or they are supporting me to grow. And that is constantly working. Does it make sense? So imagine if you're living your life from faith and trust versus worry and anxiety. What kind of choices you would make, how you would feel on day-to-day basis, it would be very different. Like, the moment you say like, I trust myself, right? The moment and you really believe I trust myself, you can feel the change in your body itself. Your spine would get more erect, you would feel more powerful in your body versus I'm worried, I'm concerned, I'm all of these. It would drain you down. It would bring your energy down. So understand that we are living our life out from trust. It is built on trust. So if everything is supposed to be the way it is and it's helping me grow, so what is the next thing which I really need to do? How do I handle anxiety? So the fundamental is it is working for me, so I don't have to be concerned. The fundamental is that, one second, give me a second, somebody. So as you do so, it really helps you set up that base from where you can operate your life. In that way, if you really understand, you trust, then what's really going to happen is now you have the capacity to move to the next step and realize that what I'm going to do next is coming from a place of trust rather than from fear. And if you can come from the place of trust rather than from fear, then you have the capacity to deal with unknowns, and there would always be unknowns. And as you go forward with it, it becomes easier and easier to connect the dots and say like, this happened, that happened, I figured it out. So the next thing which really happens is all the past experiences of anxiety which you have carried with you, they're all stored inside. So now you're not adding more to the anxiety because you're coming from a place of faith and trust. What is going to come up is like your past stuff which is not healed, so past things which are not really taken care of, past hurts, past rejections, and all of those would keep on adding up to the whole. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Vivek bhai, there's a
Yes.
lot of disturbance.
Yes.
Disturbance means
I don't hear any disturbance on my side, Vivek.
can you hear me?
I don't hear disturbance.
I can hear clearly.
Yes,
You can
yes.
hear me well, right?
Sounds is clear, yes.
Okay. I think my headphones probably died, so I have to switch to my computer computer microphone. Okay. So the next thing which really needs to happen is how do you take care of knowing that everything is working for me? What is really left is how do you deal with this difficult emotions, this energy which comes inside, so that you can be more in a place of openness. You can deal with this when you feel this anxiety, when you feel this anger, when you feel this frustration. Those are the things which you really need to handle. So coming back to that thing which I was actually sharing previously, that people who have anxiety also experiences depression, right? So when you feel anxiety, you are always running away from a predator which you can't see, like something is going to go wrong, somebody's after me, I would fail. And here and there, when you fail, you actually get very depressed. So those keep on taking, and as you get depressed, you won't take the right actions, you won't really move forward and really be open to take the risk. So as you don't take the right risk, you don't take the right actions, then you would fail again, and then that would create anxiety. So when you're depressed, it feeds into anxiety. When you're anxious, it feeds into depression. So half of the people who are in that place of anxiety also experiences depression. So one of the fundamental things which you really can do when you're feeling anxiety is to really focus on your breath. You know? So as you do so, what you really need to do is you need to bring more breath, because the fundamental thing, what is happening with anxiety is, as anxiety increases, it can lead to panic attacks also. Some of the people experience that. What it really means is anxiety is fear without oxygen. Anxiety is fear without oxygen, which means you're not breathing properly. So if you're not breathing properly, then what is happening is your mind, your brain gets hijacked. It loses all the ways in which you can think rationally, you can think properly. So we have two sides of the brain, right brain and left brain. So left brain is all rational thinking, thinking logically, all of those things. And right brain is feeling, understanding the creativity, fight and flight circumstances, all of this. But it also has that piece which is at the back of our mind, with back of our head, which is amygdala. Amygdala is the one which gets triggered every time we feel challenge, we feel fear that something is there which is actually uh, going to kill us or going to attack us. So that's which creates fight and flight circumstances. And sometimes that amygdala is actually misconfigured. And what I mean by that misconfigured is it's wired incorrectly. Even though when there are no situations of fear, it would still create that, oh, this person doesn't like me, or that situation would be really challenging. So in this situation, I have to do a fight and flight. And when you think that way, you are still living from a place of, you're putting yourself into survival. So when you think like that again and again, it creates more anxiety. And when there is more anxiety, more worry, your breath becomes shorter and shorter, which means there is less and less oxygen. And in order to counter that, you need to understand you have to breathe more deeply. Because as you bring in more oxygen to that part of the brain, which is actually getting challenged into fight and flight syndrome, what it does, it creates the space. It creates the space for that stronghold of that fight and flight on your brain. That amygdala get released, from that 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 stronghold of the fear. So as you bring in more oxygen, then the attention actually moves to the other side of the brain, which can think more rationally, more properly. But if that's not happening, what's really happening is you're getting hijacked. So oxygen or the breath is the fundamental key when you are actually going through anxiety. So there are several ways in which you can practice breathing differently. So people who are doing yoga, they already know about it. But one very simple exercise which we can do to reduce anxiety is to breathe in the pattern of breathe at the count of 4, hold for 4 counts, and then release for 4 counts. If you can practice this regularly and then build the capacity to breathe 4 to the count of 4, hold to the count of 7, and then release at the count of 4, you have actually built a very strong internal system in which you can deal with anxiety whenever you feel anxiety. So what we are going to do is we are going to do a little bit of our exercise right now to practice how does it feel as we breathe in this manner. So I'm not asking you to meditate. I'm not asking you to do any other kind of exercise, just simply breathing. You can even close your eyes. So I'm just going to guide you into breathing. If you can follow it, just follow it. If you have a challenge following it, then follow a rhythm which would allow you to breathe more deeply. Okay. So sit relaxed. You can close your eyes, feel your feet on the ground, feel your back supported by the chair. And we would breathe, and as we inhale, we would count 4 to inhale, hold for 4, and count 4 to exhale. So take a deep breath in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so let's start again. Take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take another deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. So continue to breathe in the same fashion, like breathe deeply. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 1, 2. Energy exhale. Let go of anything which doesn't belong in this moment. Like if a sound comes out or a heavy breath comes out, that's absolutely normal. So we'll change this exercise slightly more. Now, just like you're sitting right now, I want you to put one hand on your stomach and one hand on your chest, you know. So both these places. And as we breathe in, your hand, which is on your stomach, would actually move more because you're breathing more deeply. And then that is the hand which would move more a little bit, okay? But you do the same thing exactly. So close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take another deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just continue to breathe deeply. Inhale deeply. All the way. Hold for whatever moment you can hold. And then you can exhale when you're ready. And as you continue to do that, you would see your system, your nervous system is naturally coming to a place of easy relaxation. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes and see how you feel right now in this moment. Anybody would like to share in a word or a sentence, how do you feel in this moment?
Very relaxed.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
I feel calmer.
Yeah, thank you.
Feel kind of light.
Yeah. So the idea is you breathe for 4 seconds, then you hold for 4 seconds, and then you exhale in 4 seconds. But as you get better with it, what I want you hold for 7 seconds. Initially, it would be difficult for you because you might feel a little dizzy and all of those for holding for 7 seconds. But as you continue doing that, you would build that capacity. And then you would realize you are actually able to manage your anxiety in that moment. And see, as we were doing all of this, our mind wasn't really so active. The mind has given away because we are coming to a much more base step, which is really breathe, because breathing is the very basis of our life. So think of breath as a gift, It has been always throughout our life since the moment we are born, and it would be there till the last moment. And the reason it's there, it's there to help us regulate our environment inside so that we can deal with whatever the situation outside. And the second thing is to really enjoy, because your life as you're going through these experiences is a cumulative experience of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual balance. The breathing brings instant balance at a physical, mental, and emotional level. So this is one exercise which I asked you to do. The second exercise which I'm going to share with you is very simple exercise. So whenever you feel a little worried, you are getting into the territory of getting anxious, you can use breathing. Once your breath stabilizes you, the next step is we are going to do this exercise. In this, you don't have to close your eyes, okay? It's a very simple exercise. These are all the steps we do on every single day. These are the things which we do on every single day. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Some of you already know this exercise, but a very simple way to do it is, let's do it. So take a deep breath in and let it go. Take another deep breath in and let it go. And all you have to do is follow what I'm saying. So I want you to notice And again, before you start, this is not an exercise to think, to analyze anything. It's just to observe. There is nothing right and nothing wrong. We are just observing what is right now. Okay. So take a deep breath in and exhale. So the first step is I want you to observe what are the 5 things you can see in this moment without using your head, but just really watching. What are the 5 things you can see? One is definitely you are seeing me on the screen, but what are the other 5 things you can notice in your room? Maybe the wall, the carpet, whatever it is. What are the 5 things that you can see in this moment? Second, what are the 4 noises or 4 sounds that you can hear in this moment? Without making it right or wrong, what are the four sounds you can hear? One is definitely my voice, but what are the other sounds? Or more than 4 if you can notice. Now, what are the 3 things that you can feel right now? Like maybe your feet on the ground or your back supported by the chair or something else, what are the 3 things that you can feel right now in this moment? What are the 2 things that you can smell in this moment? And what is the one thing that you can taste in this moment? Maybe you just had something before you came for this call, or you're just eating something or drinking. What's the taste you can feel? And what are the thoughts in your mind, if there are any thoughts right now? And if not, that's okay too. The last thing which I said was what is the one, what is the last thing was I said was the taste, what is the one thing that you can taste in your mouth right now? But the next thing is what are the thoughts you can observe right now? Next, what are the emotions that you can check right now which are there? These could be, you could have more than one emotion, like you could be happy, sad at the same time, calm, excited, or you may have no emotion, and that is okay too. And as you observe all of these things, just bring into your awareness who's actually watching all of those things, who is watching the emotions, the thoughts, who is feeling, who is seeing, who's beyond all of this, who's actually doing all of these things.
The soul, the consciousness.
That's true. But the more important thing is, more than the answer, can you see from the place of a soul or energy or that consciousness? Can you come into that awareness to really say, who is actually watching? That's very interesting. The idea is to step into that experience and to be aware of it, to be amazed by it. And how does it feel to be in this place of awareness, in this place of experience as an observer? And some of you can do it very easily. Some of you might find it a little challenging, but either way it is okay. There is nothing wrong if you find it a little challenging too. And some of you may come into touch with certain difficult emotions, and that's okay too. But the idea is, instead of questioning why I'm feeling this, the bigger question is, who is the one who's actually experiencing this? So take a deep breath in and let it go.
Brother,
So, yeah.
is there any rule of nose and mouth? Like you should breathe from the nose and take it out from the mouth, or you can do the both things from the nose?
You can do both things from the nose. It's okay, you know. I usually use breathing, inhaling through nose and exhaling through mouth, you know. So that's okay. If you want to do both from the nose, that's okay too. But whatever is easy, because breathing needs to relax you rather than stress you how to do
Oh,
it.
sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivek.
Welcome. So I was pause here. Anybody would like to share your experience as you went through this second exercise? How did you feel in this moment? Is easy, difficult, open, close, whatever it is? Anybody would like to share?
I felt more present in my body.
Good, good.
I tend to leave my body when I'm in anxiety.
Yeah. And that's a really good thing what you're sharing, because that is a typical sign when you're anxious, you feel disconnected from the body. Even though your body is feeling the anxiety, but you feel disconnected, you don't feel grounded in your body. The whole idea is to stay grounded. The more you stay grounded in it, the more you can deal with whatever is going on. You can become a good observer. And then some people, as they practice meditation, you would be able to practice deeper meditation if you stay grounded in your body. That's the number one step. And which means you can go beyond the body after being in the body. But if you're not in the body, you're not going to go beyond the body. It's like you need a runway for a plane to run before it can take off. The plane won't take off without a runway. So you need to be in your body before you can go beyond body. Anybody else would like to share? And see, if somebody has a difficult experience, that's okay too. There is no shame or nothing in this, like, hey, I didn't have a good experience, because everybody's experience is slightly different.
I'll share. I felt I feel smoother now. I feel like my body is quieter, calmer. First, I felt like before we did the breathing, I felt just a lot of energy, like in my chest and shoulders, and like my shoulders were really sore, and I just, all the excitement from the day and the week, and then it kind of made things more congruent. It made the emotions moved through me. Now I feel a little bit tired, but I feel more at one with my body.
Yeah. And as energy shifts, it would take you through the journey, but instead of making, oh, I'm feeling this and that's what is wrong with me, you stay present with what's going on. So see, one secret I want to tell you, which really would help you transform your life. See, when we are growing up from the very beginning, the difference between what we are feeling and who we are in connection to our feeling gets fused. What I mean by that is, like, if I'm feeling bad, the natural inference of that feeling, the natural extension of that feeling which mind creates is, I'm feeling bad. That means I am bad or something is wrong with me. And that is the root cause of most of our challenges, most of our issues. So feeling bad is nowhere kind of a label on you that there is something wrong with you. Whatever you're feeling at an emotional level, all emotions are a sign, they are a message to tell you what's really happening under the surface. So if you are feeling good, that means you're healed, things are working in the way it should be. And then when you're not feeling okay, that is also indicator there is certain parts of you which are not in alignment, not working the way it should be. Notice what I'm using the word certain parts, not you. So we have good parts, we have not so good parts. They are healed parts, they are not so healed parts. So, and you are not defined by one part. Just like, say, if your life is a mess and I'm just using a very typical example, like you don't have enough money to take care of all your things and all of those things. And you say like, I would never be happy unless I win $1 million lottery or a $10 million lottery or whatever it is, right? And you basically postpone your happiness based on whatever is the future thing. And this million or $10 million lottery could be different things for different people. It could be, I get that $5 million house, or my kids get married, or my kids go to school. These are all your different lotteries on which you have postponed your happiness. So you are walking through the street one day, and in the opposite direction, you see somebody walking in your direction from the opposite side, and that person looks really familiar. And as you get closer, you realize this person is one of your best high school buddies. You have lost touch with that person for several years. And as you meet that person, you get like super excited, super happy to see that person. Another person is also super excited and happy to see you. Like, where have you been? It's been so many years. We had so much great time. And in those next few moments, you're like, we should connect again and go for dinner or lunch. You were really happy. So what happened to that condition which you have put, that I would only be happy when I would win that $1 million lottery or $10 million lottery? That was a superficial condition which you created in mind. The happiness, the excitement was always there. It needed a right trigger for it to come out. And when it came out, you can actually connect to that person. You can actually see that, hey, there is happiness which could be felt in that moment. So just like all the other things in your life are not going okay, you're feeling very messed up, but still there are certain parts which can feel happiness, which can feel joy, which can feel all of this. So what does it really mean? That you as a being, as a soul, as a consciousness, you have the capacity to feel all the different things. You can feel happiness, you can feel sadness, you can feel rejection, you can feel enthusiasm, all of those things. These are all transitionary experiences which are coming and going. One experience doesn't make the whole of you. So if you're feeling ups, if you're feeling sad, that doesn't mean you are a sad personality. Or if you're feeling this, that doesn't mean this. But the mind has a way of connecting both these dots. That if you're feeling bad, you are bad, which means something is wrong with you. That's incorrect. Just like you can feel happiness, you can feel joy, you can feel whatever it is, you can feel all the other things. And feeling all of these things makes you human. That's why you're going through this experience in this human life, to learn from all of these experiences. That's what I was sharing before. When you make that list, that this person did this to you, and transform that list to this person did this for me, all of this is basically your learning, growing journey. So as you do that, you realize no matter what I'm experiencing, I'm still beyond this in a way where I can observe it. I can experience happiness, I can experience pain, I can experience joy, I can experience all of this. These are all feelings which would come in that. The problem happens once you start connecting both the dots, that, hey, I'm feeling this way, that means something is wrong with me. And when you do that, there's a very good chance you would get into depression, because now you have connected both these dots, which means something is wrong with me, I'm a failure, I'm boom, boom, boom. Mind doesn't need an invitation. It would create a wonderful horror movie for you, to scare you and to make you pay for it with your own life. Just like people go to movie halls to watch a horror movie, they pay to get scared. I don't know the concept. I don't really understand the whole concept, but nothing wrong with whoever loves horror movies. But I don't feel it's a great value for my time I pay to get scared. So it's the same thing. You are paying with your life to live, or to give up all those moments where you can learn, you can grow, and you have connected those dots. So if you go through this exercise, which I shared with you, and some of you feel, oh, I feel sad, I feel self-destructive, I feel this. The question is not to question why I'm feeling this. Even though the idea is not to ignore, not to be in denial that you're feeling this. The question is to step back and ask, who is feeling this, right? That's number one. Who is feeling this? Because whoever is feeling this is bigger than the feeling itself. You understand? So I am feeling, fill in the blanks, my emotions, my feelings. Just like your car is parked outside, it is your car, it's your home, it belongs to you, you are the owner. Without you, that car has no significance. It could be somebody else's car, or it could be somebody else's home. Similarly, you are the one who is bigger than the whole thing. That feeling is here today, it may not be tomorrow, but you're still going to be there. So who is bigger? Are you the bigger person? Are you the bigger entity or that feeling or that emotion? You are the bigger entity. And that's why you have to stay focused on who is the observer, who is the being who is actually going through this experience of life. The second thing is, what is this feeling or this emotion is giving me the message? What is the lesson in this for me? So if you have felt really sad, really self-destructive, self-sabotaging, whatever it is, that means those certain kind of behaviors you have used over a period of time, that's why they're sitting there. Or some past experience have been unhealed, which is sitting there. Because if underlying is your experience of love and trust, and something betrays you and this comes over it, then every time you go inside, this is the first layer which you are going to interface. And then this is the trust is still there. When you don't feel love and joy in your life, that doesn't mean love and joy is not there. It's always there. It's just you have been out of touch with it. You can't connect to that love and joy. Just like when you say, I would only be happy when I win $1 million lottery, but then your friend comes, which you haven't seen for a long time, but you can still experience that joy and love. That means it was always there, but you can't connect with it. The reason you can't connect with it is because certain things happened in your life which created the betrayal, and you realized or you lost the trust that I'm not going to open my heart ever again to anybody. I'm not going to love somebody. I'm not going to do. So you shut yourself down. So the energy flow is stopped. Or the past stuff, whichever has happened, it is not healed. It is sitting over the experience of love and joy. So we are more complicated human beings. There's so many things. Like when I coach people, there are several layers you have to go through to really see what's the root cause so that you can come to your joy. So it's like layer by layer. Like people, the most superficial emotion is the emotion of anger. Anger is a superficial emotion which is hiding the disappointments, hiding the powerlessness, hiding the hopelessness, and all of those. Because you don't want to feel all of these. The most easier emotion to go is to get angry. And anger can get triggered by fear or perceived fear that something can go wrong. So you have to understand there is nothing wrong with you. You're going through these experiences, you have accumulated these experiences over the period of time. But as long as you simply practice being the observer, and that's what meditation, that's where meditation comes in very handy. It's very helpful because it helps you step back from your own mind, from your own emotions, from your own superficial feelings, so you can observe all of them. And because you can do so, and as you can build this muscle of observation, what it does it, so if this is the layer of feelings and everything, emotions, mental states and all that, you can step back. And when you can step back, you can actually see these things for who they are. You really realize this is who you are, and these are all the transitionary experiences. They do not define you, but if you fuse them together, then they define you. You're basically disidentifying, and as you disidentify, you pull the energy because all these experiences at the surface are taking your energy to play that horror movie. The moment you create that buffer by practicing meditation, you pull the energy plug from them, and all of these things step by step just drop. And what stays is you. It's just like if you're watching a horror movie and you're really, really scared watching that horror movie, what is the easiest thing you can do to get out of that? You need to turn off the TV. You need to pull the plug. And if you pull the plug, there is no more horror movie playing. And you can step back and realize, I'm the one who was watching that movie. I was the one who was playing that movie. I can turn it off. But if you cannot do it, that movie would continue to play on the screen of your mind. And it is used to playing that movie for so long that you even forget that you can turn it on and turn it off. That's why anxiety plays havoc in your life. So that's the first step, to really understand who is the observer here and who is actually watching the movie. The second part to this is to really disengage that what you're feeling is you. This is not true. What you're feeling is just one part of it. What you're experiencing is one part of it in this moment, and it's transitionary in nature. So feeling bad doesn't mean you are bad. That doesn't mean that you're wrong, that something is wrong with you. If you can disconnect this, you can relax, you can be at ease, you can handle your anxiety. And the second thing is coming to the acceptance of it, so because the whole topic was anxiety to acceptance, to allow yourself in a safe manner to feel what's really going on without making anything wrong. So it's a very easy way to do that is to to learn this line, which is very helpful. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay. Because if you can, the moment you tell yourself it's okay not to be okay, then you can relax. Because what's making it not okay is your judgments about your experience in this real time. Say if you're hurt and you don't want to feel hurt because somebody said something in some manner which they didn't intend it, but you are hurt ultimately. And if you're hurt and you don't want to feel hurt because inside you have this crossfire that if you feel hurt, that means somebody has power on you, you're powerless, you are hopeless, and then if you cry, then you're weak, because if you're hurt, you would want to release that energy of hurt, but you don't want to feel any of these things, hopeless, powerless. You don't want to cry because you don't want to feel weak. So you suppress that hurt feeling. You don't want to experience it. So what's going to happen is you're denying the reality that you are hurt. The more you suppress and you don't want to feel hurt, the more it is going to get worse and worse, because whatever suppressed would get expressed in some other weird manner. You would get angry, you would lash out on somebody or whatever it is. So the acceptance here is to accept that I'm hurt. And as you allow yourself to experience that I'm hurt, then whatever comes, allow yourself to move through that feeling. If you feel like crying, you feel like calling somebody and asking for their help. It's okay to feel hopeless, powerless, to feel rejected, feel all of these feelings, because everybody feels that. You're not the only one. So that's why it's okay not to feel okay. That doesn't mean this is your slogan for the whole life. It's the slogan in this moment. It's okay not to be okay. Once you allow yourself to be not okay, it's okay. I'm hurt. Let me allow myself to feel hurt. It's like, when we were kids, we were like bored, like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm bored. I don't want to do this. I'm bored, So the boredom was running the show. But whenever you feel that way, the easiest way to handle boredom is you sit and tell yourself, next 20 minutes, I'm going to sit and feel completely bored. That's all you have to do. And I guarantee you, in next 5 to 10 minutes, you would be out of your boredom, because you brought all the attention, all the awareness in that moment there on the boredom. So what you have done is, in that moment, you have accepted your boredom. The moment you accept it, it goes away. Your in acceptance of the reality is continuing to persist. What you resist is continue to persist. So how do you stop resisting? By accepting what the reality is in this moment. So any spiritual progress which you're doing in your life, if you're not acceptance of your reality, then it's very hard for you to progress. Like you've been practicing certain spiritual philosophy or religious philosophy for a long period of time, and the philosophy says you have to be always happy all the time. How many of you can practice that, have all the happy all the time? Not possible all the time. Your goal may be, I would reach that point where I would be happy all the time. But if you, and the reality is you're not happy because whatever reason, and you push yourself to be happy even when you are not, you are denying the reality. And if you're out of touch with the reality, you're going to suffer because you're going to resist what the reality is. And you're resisting reality by bringing in how the reality should be, which is your imagination. So between reality and imagination, who's going to win? Who's going to win between imagination and reality?
Reality.
Imagination.
I
So
think they
reality is,
both win.
Mind,
how does both win?
mind does not.
Because
Okay.
sorry, brother, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a research went on the music players, in which one group was given pianos to just imagine it, and other did the practical. And after that, when they did the research, they actually have the same results. So I'm just talking about the research because I have read that thing.
Mm-hmm. So that is true. That's called the placebo effect,
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So what I'm saying is, in this moment, even that placebo effect is still is not in disconnect with what you're feeling. What you're feeling is if what you're feeling is that's what's going through you. That is what's going to create the result of that. But reality is here is that you're feeling hurt. If you can change the feeling of hurt completely, there is nothing wrong. But what here I'm talking about is you're feeling hurt, which is the reality, but you're trying to change it. But the hurt is still sitting there. You're pushing against that reality that you're hurt. And because you're pushing against the reality that you're hurt, that's why it's going to persist longer and it's going to create all of that. If you can do something which can switch that whole thing, where you can lose all your hurt and you can come into joy, you can use that placebo effect, absolutely go ahead and do it. But you're trying to tell yourself, I'm happy, when inside you're hurt, that's not going to work. So that's the difference between both of those things. So in order for you to grow, you have to first come to the place, what am I feeling right now? What's going on? And accept that. And then you can use whatever philosophy, whatever affirmations, whatever it is, to change the feeling. That's the key. And if you can change the feeling, that becomes the new reality. Does it make sense? Like
Yes.
a lot of people use affirmations like, I'm happy, I'm powerful, I'm strong, but they don't feel any of these things inside. And over a period of time, they practice this affirmation, but the feeling doesn't change. They get more frustrated, more upset. So if you continue to do that, the affirmations would actually trigger more anxiety than actually help you to move into a powerful place. So what really wins is what you are actually creating to feel and to come into a place of more ease, more flow, is to accept first what's going on. If you can accept it, then you're out of resistance. That's why even acknowledging that I'm okay, not being okay, would actually put you a step closer to the flow. And as you continue to be more in the flow, you would be more in the joy. Like sometimes when we feel so overwhelmed with certain things, something has happened in our life, and we just give up and we cry. We cry like a baby for 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And after that cry, we feel so light. We feel so relieved, which means whatever was built up, which we were avoiding to feel, we allowed ourselves to feel, and it got released. And now I'm more lighter. Now I'm not operating out of my head that I shouldn't feel this, I shouldn't feel that. But I'm not saying I'm encouraging all of you to cry until unless you really feel that way. You connect with that pain or that hurt, and then you cry, and then you release it. And then as soon as you release it, what is sitting underneath that? What is sitting underneath that is your original nature of happiness, your joy, your flow. So the thing is, the more you come into the flow, the more easier for it is to come into the joy. Flow and joy go step by step. So somebody was asking, how can we stop the stressful thoughts if the situation doesn't change? The easy thing is, again, coming back to what I really said before, is instead of trying to change the outcome, what you try to do is you try to change how you're dealing with that situation. So all of us struggle because we want a certain outcome. And most of us, if we know, the outcomes are not in our hand. Like you want your child to be a certain way, you want your spouse to be a certain way, very difficult. Forget about them, check your own life, how long you've been trying to transform yourself, how easy it is. It is challenging for you to change yourself. How could you change somebody else, right? So in that same thought, you say, instead of changing the outcome that this situation should change, what I really need to do is, how should I handle this situation so that I do not suffer from it? That doesn't mean the pain would go away. You would still feel the pain, but the suffering would go away. There are two different things, So the pain would help you figure out new resources, new ways how you deal with this thing. If you're tied to a certain result, which means you're tied to a certain result, means you want certain things to happen certain way, certain outcomes, then that's what you're going to create stress, because you would become very much stringent on this is the only thing you really want, which means that you want it certain way because the other way would really challenge you, which means you don't trust the bigger picture, that life is still working for you. You're still trying to control the outcome so that your life would work out the way your mind wants it to work out, because it would keep you safe. But if you step back and say, like, let me be focused on how should I handle this situation, what this situation is actually trying me to learn patience, trying me to be learn more compassion, trying to help me learn more positivity. That doesn't mean if somebody is abusing you, you be there and take the abuse. That's a different situation. You have to stand up for yourself. Maybe the situation is telling you to stand up and face the situation, but you don't want to do that. So all of this, when you're trying to control the outcome, that means you're not trusting the life in a bigger picture. And that means you want it in certain ways so that you can feel safe. Your mind can feel safe. That's why meditation is so important. So you can step back and stop trying to control the outcomes. That some of you who have learned Gita, who have read Gita, one of the very basic fundamentals which was taught in Gita is to karm kiye ja aur phal ki chinta mat kar, which means you continue to do what is the right karma, what is the right action, and don't worry about the end result or the end fruit. And that is the whole essence of it. That means you have to continue doing your right actions and trust in a bigger picture it would work out. Not in the way you want it, but exactly the way how it should be in a bigger picture. I hope that answers your question. So I would pause here and I would just recap everything. So first thing is you have to deal with anxiety and all of those difficult emotions is you have to understand that life is working for you. So you have to trust life. Even when you're confused, even when you're not clear, even there is a lot of challenges, trust that life is actually working for you. And how do you know life is working for you? Because there are so many things which are out of your control. Your whole body, the system it is working, is not working because you are thinking the way it should work. There's so many complexities, like even after several hundred years of research on human body, people are still trying to figure it out, all the scientists, how different components of the body works. So without your knowledge, without your understanding, life is still working for you. And as you look back at your life, the challenging situation, challenging circumstances were all there to help you grow. Second thing is understanding that feeling bad doesn't mean that something is wrong with you, that you are bad, or all of those things. So disconnect both of these things. People who meditate, it's very easy for them to do that. If you're in the middle of a anxious situation, you feel anxiety, worry, you need to work through your breathing exercise to disconnect the hold of that worry on you so that you can step back. The other exercise, which I told you, what are the 5 things you can see? What are the 4 things that you can hear? What are the 3 things you can feel? What are the 2 things that I forget one of those things? And what is the one thing which you can actually taste, So these are the 5 things. If you practice, connect with your body, your anxiety would become less. And the third thing which I told you is it's okay. The lesson of acceptance, which is it's okay not to feel okay. And you accept where your reality is. This exercise would become difficult. It's okay not to be okay when you're trying to control the outcome. Because if you're trying to control outcome, it would be very hard for you to be okay with not being okay, because you want the result in a certain way. What you're trying to be okay with is I'm okay not being okay is with what you're feeling, not with the outcome, right? So be okay with the way you're feeling, even though it's not feeling okay. And then you repeat this exercise again in the next moment, and you realize if you do it for 5 minutes, within 5 minutes, you would be able to change your mental and emotional state. So I would pause here, and I would just pause here to just ask if there is anybody who has a burning question, so that I can answer it, and then we can close with a short meditation. But before I get into that, I just really want to share that a lot of you who have come here practice Raj Yoga meditation. I have been practicing Raj Yoga meditation for several years. That has really helped me to understand all the things, build more trust in my own life, experiment with all the different philosophies what Raj Yoga has taught. Raj Yoga also means you become the self-sovereign, you become the Raja, you become the king of your own life. And it has helped you to become the king of your own emotions, your own feelings, your own mental thought processes. But at the same time, deal with all of these things so that all of these things as a soul, you can experience your life, you can connect with God, you can connect with the higher force, higher power, so that you can live from more trust. And as you are able to live with that from that place, you realize how the dots connect, not in this moment, but when you look back in your life. And as you can connect the dots, you realize what is the learning. So every time you're going through this difficult situation, instead of asking why this is happening with me, the bigger question is, what is the learning in this for me? And if you're not clear, what is the learning in this for me? Talk to a friend, talk to a confidant, and they would exactly tell you what is the lesson in this for you. Because as a third person, they can witness you and see what you're struggling with. And I also do coaching. So if somebody of you really want to have some one-on-one discussion, I would be happy to answer that too. But practice Raj Yoga meditation. It's free, 7 days course to start your journey. And there are a lot of workshops, just like every Saturday people do it. I do once in a while here. Join those workshops. They're all free of charge. And that would help you move forward in your journey. And any one of you feel benefited with this workshop or other workshops, you're welcome to make a donation online to the Raj Yoga Center. Okay. So anybody has any questions before we wrap up?
I just have a comment. When you say it's okay not to be okay, and what I think when we do the Raj Yoga meditations, or when you have a faith in everything, then it really helps to accept those anxieties. Like the statement you made, it's okay not to be okay. But it really works when you really have a faith, when you have your mind connected through meditation. And that's all I can say.
That's true, because that's why, what was the first thing I discussed? I discussed about trust, right? Discussed about faith, because that's the fundamental platform from which you're operating. Because if you don't have faith or you don't have trust that life is working for you, it's very difficult for you to accept that it's okay not to be okay. Then you're more anxious, right? So fundamental thing is, in a bigger picture, it's working for me. I may not have all the answers. I may not have the clarity, but I would move through this, And what is the proof that I would move through it? I am the proof myself. All these things in which has happened in my life, I haven't stopped. I've figured out a way. It wasn't easy, but I found out plan B, plan C, So it still works out.
And like you said, like out of 100%, only 5% of the time, 95% of the time, the scenario never happens. The other 5%, the scenario we have, it just goes away, in a sense. So you have to have that faith.
Exactly. Yeah. And imagine just telling yourself, out of all those 100% problems, I have only 5% I have to deal with. You're already happy, right? So it's like, hey, I have to deal with just 5% of the problems of all the 100% I was thinking. That's a good story. Why not? Cool. So we are going to finish with just 2 minutes of meditation. I know I'm a little bit over, but I would just finish here with 2 minutes. So just sit relaxed. You can close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and exhale. Take another deep breath in, and exhale. And as you breathe in, just bring in this understanding, this knowing that this life force is entering right now in the form of breath, in form of oxygen. And it's giving me life. It's keeping me alive. It's allowing me to be vibrant, to be alive, to experience the life as it is. And the whole life is a series of experiences I'm going through to grow, to become a better version of myself. And as you exhale, you let go of anything which doesn't belong in this moment. And now take your right hand, put it on your heart, and you breathe. And in this moment, as you breathe, just bring out the breath into your heart. And as you exhale, just feel grateful in this moment that so far in my life, most of the things have actually worked out for me. Not in the way I expected, but still it worked out. So in this moment, bring in one thought. What is it that you are grateful for right now in this moment? Just one thing, it could be a very simple one thing, that you were able to make it to this workshop, to like somebody really loving and supportive to you in this lifetime, whatever it is. That God is there in your life. He's taking care of you. Some loving person is there. He's an angel in your life, your friend, your spouse, whoever it is. And also your own heart right now. Say thanks to your own heart, like it's been beating since the very moment you were born. Without you knowing, it's keeping you alive, just like your breath. So be thankful to your own heart, which is allowing you to experience this amazing life, this amazing journey. It is allowing you to live from a place of openness and trust. And tell yourself that no matter what's going to happen, I would figure out my way. So far I have, and with trust in myself, trust in God, I'm actually going to figure out my way in the future also. It would all work out. And you can speak this out loud, right? I trust myself. I trust life. And I'm open for the new experiences in life. And see the energy as it shifts, as you experience, as you express that. So thank you. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. And as you open your eyes, see how you feel in this moment. As you look around, look at your own room, what it feels like. So thank you. I would pause here. And before we close, anybody would like to share anything about the workshop in a word or a sentence or any feedback?
Thank you, Vivek. That was really great.
Thank you, Leah. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. I enjoyed a lot. I'm light.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vivek, this
Okay.
is Palma from Vancouver.
Hi, Palma. Thanks for joining.
It's very empowering, and what I like is really not to beat ourselves, just to accept and look for the lesson, except instead of really regretting and feeling low and taking the blame. Just move forward. That's so clear. Your message is very clear, to love ourselves, actually. So
Yeah.
it's really beautiful, and thank you for taking the time to share this with us. And keep
Thank
us
you, Palma.
yeah, keep us posted your other offerings, your other workshop.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dilip Bhai, do you want to make any announcement before we close?
No.
Okay.
Everything is good. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and do it again. Let's do it again.
Sure. Thank you. And all the best, everybody. Tomorrow is a new day in US. So let's move forward with more joy and hope. Okay.
Okay.
Om Shanti. Bye.
Shanti. Good night.